Hey guys, Rick with RallySport Direct here, and beside me we've got Tyler on, customer service extraordinaire. And the reason I have him here beside me is he's actually going to be helping with the install of what's here in front of me. And let me explain what we've got going on, because we're going to be doing a DIY or a how-to, and this is the Focus RS front and rear sway bar. So we've got the front and rear sway bar. Rear's 22 millimeter. Front, I believe, is the same diameter stock, but we do have these adjustments here. And then of course on the rear, we also have the adjustments here. Plus, these are solid bars, which should act as a much stiffer bar over stock. So we should be seeing a significant reduction in body roll. But they do include end links and everything we're gonna need to install. Now, unfortunately for you, the front is gonna be a little bit tricky, but we're gonna walk you guys through that. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. First thing you're gonna wanna do is jack up the car and secure it with jack stands. Next, we're gonna remove the front wheels, and then we're gonna take off the under tray. That will come off with 8 T30 Torx and 4 plastic clips, which can be removed with a flathead screwdriver. Next step will be to remove the motor mount bolt, which is a long 15 millimeter bolt. Now we can work on the subframe. In the rearmost portion, you're going to notice one bracket on each side. We're going to remove that by removing the 2 large 21 millimeter bolts. You'll also notice some 13 and 15 millimeter nuts. Go ahead and remove those and remove the bracket. Next up, we're going to remove the rear control arm brackets, and this is secured by 2 18 millimeter bolts, but you'll notice on top there's 2 21 millimeter nuts. Might be helpful to have a buddy help you out with this one. To finally drop the subframe down, you're going to remove your last single 15 millimeter bolt, which you can find on the uppermost portion of the subframe. You can access this through the control arm, and make sure to do both sides. For clearance, we found it helpful to remove the downpipe hanger bracket. You may not have to remove it on yours, but we found it gave us a little bit more room to work with. Before the sway bar can come out, we have to remove the sway bar end links, and those will come off usually with a 15 millimeter impact. If not, you might have to get an Allen key on there and use an open-ended wrench. With the end links off, now we can work on removing the sway bar itself. It is going to be a tight fit to get this one out. We had to pry, push, and squeeze, and it may be helpful to have a buddy help you out, but it will come out. Just have a little patience and work on it. Prep the new sway bar with bushings and brackets before going back in. This one should be a much easier process than the stock one coming out. Now we can focus on getting the subframe attached back to the car. Take your 2 rearmost subframe brackets, place them on the subframe, and we're going to reinstall it by using our large 21 millimeter bolts and of course the 15 and 13 millimeter nuts. With the rear subframe brackets in place, the rear uppermost subframe bolts, which are 15 millimeters, can be inserted in. Just make sure to line them up to avoid cross-threading. Once you have the subframe and the engine mount bolts all secured, we can then work on the front end links. You want to leave them a little bit loose. It'll actually help with the install. And once you get the nuts tightened down on there, we want to work on that turnbuckle and make sure that's nice and secure. Once the end links are in and torqued down, you want to double check everything. If everything looks good, we can go ahead and put the under tray back on. Remember the T30 Torx and the small plastic clips. Now it's time to jump to the rear of the vehicle. First thing you'll notice on the driver's side is the 2 10 millimeter bolts holding on the heat shield bracket. We're going to want to go ahead and remove those first. Next, we're going to want to remove the rear end link. Use your Allen key and an open-ended 18 millimeter. They're a little bit tight, but once you get them started, they should come off the hub. With the end links off, now we're going to want to remove the rear subframe bracket that runs from the subframe up to the rear chassis of the car. These are going to come off with 2 T40 Torx and 1 13 millimeter bolt, and make sure to remove both sides. To remove the rear sway bar, locate the 10 millimeter nuts and bolts on the upper and bottom portion of the sway bar bracket. Once those are out, the sway bar should be free to come out. With the sway bar out, we will prep our aftermarket sway bar and put it back in. Installation is pretty simple on this, and we're just going to want to put in the 2 10 millimeter bolts, top and bottom on both sides. Reinstall the rear subframe brackets again using the T40 Torx and the 13 millimeter bolts. Now we can move on to the rear sway bar end links. Again, leave these loose until you get them torqued down to the hub and the sway bar, and then we can tighten up the turnbuckle. Last step is to reinstall the heat shield bracket using the two 10mm nuts. Congratulations, you've just installed your Whiteline front and rear sway bar set. Now go out for a drive.